Hi everyone, Stjepan here. In today's video I'm going to show you a game I played in a very thematic pawn structure, the Carlsbad, which I often play from the attacking side, sort of from the side that has the minority of pawns. And I'm going to show you, if you don't know, you'll see the structure in a second. My opponent played d4. She is a women's international master, stronger than me, much stronger. Okay, d5, c4, c6, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, e6, the semi-Slav, and now instead of e3 or bishop g5, she exchanged on d5. Now I have the option to go into the exchange Slav if I take cd, but that means that I don't get to play bishop f5 or bishop g4, which are inferior lines compared to being able to do that. So I take ed5. And this is now the Carlsbad pawn structure as soon as white develops the bishop and plays e3. Basically this pawn chain for white, this pawn chain for black. I usually play this on the other side with the black pieces, though. I play it in the exchange Caro-Kann. And I'm used to having her side of the Carlsbad, and I'm more comfortable with it. Now, the most common plans, since the knight has already been developed to f3, don't really include e3, f3, e4 with the knight on e2, which is quite a common way to play. White can try to play queen c2, bishop out, castle queenside. That's a very common plan in the Carlsbad. But by far the most common one is the minority attack, where white is going to attack black's majority of pawns with her 2 pawns on the queen side. Let me just close the window because somebody is doing some construction outside. Excuse me. Okay, so bear that in mind. She played queen to c2, of course, to prevent bishop f5. That's a very good idea. I don't really want my bishop on g4. And here I played bishop to d6. This is an uncommon move. Way more common are bishop e7, g6, even knight a6. The idea with this is I'm going to be activating my pieces in a better way than usual, allowing white some potential tricks, but I know how to avoid them. And this is, I'm not even going to say that this is theory. Bishop d6 is just weird. It's not worse than bishop e7, but black would make mistakes if he doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, bishop g5 is normal, and now bishop to e6. And this has only been played a few times. It's a weird idea to develop your pieces like this, but it's fine. Basically, you want to play knight bd7 before blocking in your bishop to make sure you don't have to go knight f8, knight g6, etc. Pawn e3, knight bd7, bishop d3, normal. h6, I can also castle, that's fine, or play queen c7, which is more common. Bishop to h4, rook to c8, both sides castle, and she plays rook a to b1. And the idea is to go for this minority attack. White wants to play b4 and b5. And if I take, my d5 pawn is isolated and weak. If white takes, then bc, bc, and I have a backward c pawn, which can be exploited easily. Let me just show you, for example, if I do nothing. Okay, here and here and here. And white can simply continue with, for example, knight to c4, start targeting the c5 square. If white manages to plant a piece in c5, for example, let's just do nothing for a few more moves. I'll just show you what I mean. Okay, so something like this. White is strategically very close to winning. So after rook a to b1, I know what's coming, and I had a plan. So I played rook e8. She played b4. As I said, I cannot allow b5, so I have two options. I can play a6, and after a4, I will have to react once more, or I can simply play pawn to b5, which is the best move. And this structure I was familiar with. Rook fc1 played, and here I made a huge mistake. Not that my position is worse after that. It's about equal, as it should be. But I have a way to go for an advantage, which I did consider, but I didn't end up playing. Just a huge mistake. So black can play for an advantage, and not a small advantage, with pawn to a5. White has two options basically. Either allow me to take or defend the pawn with a3. B takes a5 and queen takes a5 is, I'm going to say, slightly better for black. a4 should be the best move, but now black is better. Bishop a3. Once the rook moves, you continue with b4, and this should be close to winning already. May sound strange, but I have such dominating pieces. Let me give you an example variation. Knight e2. Sorry, let's go knight a2, trying to put pressure on the pawn. Knight e4. This cannot be taken. If this is taken, then, well, knight d2, queen h5, for example, attacks the bishop. After bishop to g3, I just go c5. Everything is blowing open, and if d c5, then rook c5. If queen e4, then simply knight f6. And you can see that my passed b pawn is tremendous. Also, after a5, if a3 is played, then I can simply do this. Takes, takes, knight b6. My knight is coming into the weakened c4 square. I should be slightly better. This was the way to go. Instead, I played queen c7, which is worse than a5. The position is still about equal, but I don't get to have an advantage. What's even worse is that my queen is only defended twice. Once she plays bishop to g3, which she did play, and I exchange, my queen is now only defended once, so white is basically threatening knight b5. So queen d6, getting away from that. a4, white gets to play the break, and I have to play a6. And here she played the best move. If she exchanges, again, or if she does nothing, let's say a stupid move is played, king f1, I just go knight b6. And I jump into this square, again, should be slightly better. But she plays the best move, pawn a5. And now I'm going to have a hard time utilizing the weakness in her position. So my plan can be, for example, moving the rook, moving the queen, playing knight e8, knight d6, knight c4, fine. By the time I do that, white has several good options. Instead, I played knight to f8. She played knight e5. I played knight g4. I have to exchange that knight. Knight g4, bishop g4, bishop f5, bishop f5, queen f5. A lot of exchanges happen. Now I simply went back. I want my knight on f6 after all the exchanges. So knight to d7. Knight e2 played. She wants to go knight f4, knight d3, knight c5. Very normal. So either I can keep my knight here to control the c5 square, or I can move my knight away and try to go knight f6, knight e4, knight d2, knight c4, which I don't think I have time for. I played knight f6. Rook to b2 played, trying to double, put pressure on the c6 pawn. Rook c7, preparing to meet that threat with rook c8. And now knight f4. And here I made a mistake. I went back. I got scared of her plan and wanted to prevent it more than I wanted to go for my own active plan. I should have played knight e4. And after, for example, rook b to c2, I can now go rook e c8. Queen e5 should be the best move, I think. But let's say she doesn't play queen e5. Let's say she plays anything. For example, knight to d3. Simply move the queen. The knight drops here. I can defend my pawn and then do this on the next two moves. If she wants to take, that's fine. I should have done that. Instead, I went back knight d7. And now knight d3. Rook e6. This was my plan. I wanted to defend laterally. Queen f4, offering a queen trade. And now I have to include my king in the game. I basically have to get my king to d6 to be able to free up one of my rooks. So king f8. Rook bc2. Now I did trade queens, takes, g takes, and king e7. Okay, g3 played. What I should have done instead of king e7, I think, is pawn to f5. Now, I'm already worse. And I think I'm already much worse. In fact, the engine thinks white is winning. That was completely unclear to me during the game. Why is that so? Well, firstly, this weakness is way more exploitable than the weakness on c4. Secondly, the pawn on a6 is weak. Thirdly, the pawn on c6 is weak. I don't have a weakness to target along the c file. Most importantly, I didn't play f5, but even if I did, White has a very clear plan. f3, e4. Push, 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 and then finally push d5, break open my structure and win, which is exactly what happened. King e7, g3, king d6, king g2, h5, rook h1, rook h6, f3, rook c8, e4. I can resign. And at this point, I realized that for the last 5 or 6 moves, there was no return anymore. Rook e8 played, rook hc1, and here's a variation I'd analyzed after the game. I can go d4, and after rook c6, I can actually go king d5, fe4 check, king d4, and for example, defense on c3, king takes e4, rook e1, king d4, and now something like this, where obviously I'm worse because I'm a piece down, but maybe I can fight for a draw. But anyway, I didn't do that. I played rook back to c8, knight e5, knight takes, f takes, king d7, e d5. I cannot take back, my rook is hanging, g5, and yeah, I resigned 2 or 3 moves later. She basically managed to get everything out of this position. This, of course, is completely lost and game over at this point. So I made 2 mistakes. The first mistake is not playing a5 in this position, going for an advantage. The second clear mistake is that after knight f4, instead of playing actively, I played passively for no reason at all. I'm perfectly in time to do whatever I want. For example, rook e8, knight d3, knight e4, rook e2, queen e7, for example, g4, knight d6, queen e5, knight c4. I mean, the engine says white is slightly better, but I'm never losing this position. I'm never losing this position. Fine, white has f3, e4, and that's great. White has an active plan, but I have a lot of pressure on her position, and if she gets careless, maybe I can get enough counterplay. So yeah, 2 mistakes which cost me the game. I lost, well, deservedly. And I have a lot to learn. The worst thing is that I understand the structure, or I thought I did understand the structure. But instead of going for an advantage, I played passively. Then instead of going for activity to counter her activity, I played passively again, and that just cost me the game. Another thing is, it's not that I'd underestimated how she can win f3, e4. It's that I didn't consider it at all. And that should be a great lesson to me. Thank you for watching, guys. See you tomorrow with round 4, where we are finally going to see one of my attacking games. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye-bye.